Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast. My name is Sami Haj Assad, and with me, as always, is my good friend and fellow automotive journalist, Benjamin Hunting. Say hi to the people, Ben.
Greetings, human listeners.
Greetings to everyone. I'd like to send a special thank you to all of our new listeners this week. We appreciate you trying something new, and we hope you'll stick around because we've got a ton of podcasts. We've got a ton of episodes on this podcast every single week. There's something new going on. And
we also have a ton of podcasts, which is, I wish you'd just gone with that.
We have a ton of podcasts. That was a slip, of course. But you know who is doing a lot of podcasting? Ben. Ben, you're doing so much podcast, I can't even keep up with you.
Sami, I'm doing minimum 3 podcasts a week because
that's too many.
Because of my comic book that's coming out, Model UN, www.modeluncomic.com. By the time this goes live, we'll be 2 days away from the Kickstarter, which is October 7th at 8 a.m. And I've been doing all these Kickstarter interviews with a very wide range of people. People who are kind of on the hobbyist side, people who are straight up professionals, people who are maybe pop culture oriented, people who are comic book oriented. So I've been experiencing some very different podcasts, I guess, I don't know if it's styles or formats or whatnot. I'm not used to being a guest on a podcast, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. And but none of them are about cars, which is always my favorite thing about what you do, is that, well, first of all, I love listening to your thoughts on cars. We talk about cars all the time, but it's always so important that here on this show, our listeners only get like one glimpse of you. Although
I think that's enough. I don't think anyone needs more.
I think actually you do give them more of a well-rounded view of yourself than I give anybody. But
that's because you're a mysterious person who's very withdrawn. You have a rich interior life that few have ever glimpsed.
That's right. And I try to keep it that way. And you, on the other hand, are out there on all these different podcast platforms and talking about everything other than cars. And now all the people who have listened to you talk about comics are like, oh, this guy knows his stuff about cars as well. And then all the people who are listening to you talk about cars, like right now, are going to these comic podcasts and are like, oh yeah, this is what it's all about, man.
So anyway, this show is going to be about cars.
Are you sure?
This episode, I'm very sure.
Mostly. I think we're going to center all of our conversation around cars. But if we go in a different direction, you're not allowed to turn things around, okay?
Honestly, Sami, I'm not sure because this is the 4th podcast in a row that I've done this week. So it could literally be about anything at this point.
Perfect.
I could be accidentally on like a CBC podcast about like climate change or something, and I would have no idea.
Well, speaking of which, isn't the car you're driving some kind of hybrid of some sort?
It is a hybrid, but it's one of those hybrids by default. You know, like when a company decides that everything's going to be hybrid.
No, it's not a hybrid by default. There are worse hybrid by default. Those are like the mild hybrid, 48 volt mild hybrids. And we're like, I don't know if that's really a hybrid.
Well, you know, if
yes, it is.
If you walk into a Toyota dealership these days, it's pretty much, oops, all hybrids. Like that's just how they're doing things. And I spent a week with the 2025 Toyota 4Runner Trailhunter, Sami.
4Runner Trailhunter.
You remember how there used to be TRD and then TRD Off-Road and then TRD Off-Road Pro? Well, get ready for Trailhunter, which costs the same. In the United States, Trailhunter is the same price as TRD Pro for the 4Runner. And that makes it $67,000, I think, right around there. It's in Canada, it's a little bit different. It's like an $86,000 vehicle, which is $3,000 more than TRD Pro. And let me tell you what the difference is. I don't know if you're out there thinking, why does Toyota need 3 off-road versions of a vehicle that's already supposed to be off-road capable, right? Like the whole deal is TRD Pro has kind of gone in a dune bashing direction. They're chasing Raptors and whatnot, while Trailhunter is more of a traditional off-roader in the sense that you can climb rocks and go through mud and that kind of thing without the same type of suspension. Like the suspension on the Trailhunter is sourced from the aftermarket. It's Old Man Emu, which is a company that has long been involved in off-roading, particularly with Land Rovers. The suspension on the TRD Pro is Fox shocks, which is what you would find.
Excuse me, I'm not sure we're allowed to use that kind of language on our podcast.
They're using it in Ford showrooms too, because that's the same suspension pretty much that you would find on a Raptor R. But
Fox like the animal.
Yeah, Fox like the animal.
Perfect.
Exactly. Or Fox like Mulder.
Yes. I love it.
I resisted the temptation for an X-Files sting there. You're very welcome.
Well, yeah, you've got this soundboard that you keep playing during the pre-show.
I only play it during the pre-show because I'm unsure about licensing.
Yeah, it kills me so much. Okay, so this is a lot of discussion about trim levels and equipment. Well, trim levels before even getting into the equipment. I appreciate you getting into the equipment now. Fox, Old Man Emu, what else we got?
Well, visually they're very similar. The TRD Pro and the Trailhunter both have kind of the wider fenders and the bigger tires, and I believe the Trailhunter's on 33-inch tires. The one I had featured a bunch of aftermarket stuff that you can see in addition to the aftermarket suspension. So it has a roof rack from ARB, I believe. It's like a roof platform, and it can hold 700 pounds static load. So you can be up there, you can be camping, you can pitch a tent, you can have 2 or 3 people, depending on how well things go at the campground. And then at the front of the truck, there's a whole bunch of lights. Let's say there's a light bar that goes across the bottom that's integrated into the bumper. And then there's 2 fog lights. They're all from Rigid. They're all LED. What I thought was neat is the fog lights themselves have 2 colors. You can do like a white light or you can do a yellow light.
What?
And yeah, because yellow light
is it a filter or is it?
I believe it's different colored LEDs inside the housing.
That's where your money's going, baby.
Now, I want to say that this is a good idea because white light is great for when it's clear outside, but if it's snowing or if it's foggy, I know you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Why are you driving with fog lights on if it's clear outside? But when it's foggy and it's snowing, you get a lot of reflections from white light. Yeah. Yellow light is better at undercutting that and not having as much glare come back at you. So I think it's a neat implementation that we haven't seen really on very many, if any, factory vehicles.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Good point. It's a shame we aren't not testing this vehicle in the snow right now.
No, but I do have fog out here because the temperature differentials are starting to get pretty extreme at night. Mm-hmm. And with the moisture that's in the air, I'm starting to get fog. And we have a lot of deer out here, so bright lights are always crucial.
Okay, so Ben, you've talked to me all about these all these bits and bobs here. What about the tires? Are these rugged off-roady tires or?
Yeah, I can't remember the brand, but they're, knobby, 33-inch, really big. They came on like a bronzish rim. My truck was finished in a paint called Everest, which was kind of an aquamarine / turquoise / dark bluish green. It's hard to describe, but it looked really good. And I want to stress, this is the first time I've driven the 25 4Runner, and it's been completely redesigned. I mean, for the most part, it's the same as the Tacoma, which I drove last year underneath. Mm-hmm. Like it's got the chassis and whatnot.
And it's the same platform as the Land Cruiser too.
Yeah, it's the TNG F. I don't remember exactly. TNG A. It's some variation of TNG, as are all platforms. To the point where calling it TNG feels pretty meaningless.
That's right. I agree with you
at this juncture. But I think it looks really good. I think it's a handsome truck, and I was fully prepared to not like this vehicle because we talked about it a lot.
Just from exterior design or everything.
Just from the fact that I'm tired of off-road vehicles.
Yeah.
I think that the trend is just out of control, and only a tiny number of people are going to take this vehicle off-road, even if they are spending nearly $90,000 Canadian to own it. The pricing for this vehicle is super strange because it puts it in a position where it costs more than a Land Cruiser. It costs almost the same as a GX, which are based on the same platform and are ostensibly aimed at the same customer, someone who wants to go off-road, but also wants an SUV. They also have hybrid drivetrains, just like this. Well, not exactly the same, but very similar to the one in this vehicle. And at a certain point, it's like, when you're in a Toyota showroom and there's a Lexus store nearby, you have like 4 or 5 different options.
I think you have more than that, man. I think you've got way more than that.
And nearly the same price. It's odd.
In Toyota's showroom, you've got the 4Runner and Land Cruiser, and you've got, there's also the pickup trucks, right?
Yeah.
And then when you go to Lexus, you've got GX and LX. And
don't forget TX.
I don't know you're going off-road on a TX or an RX, but it just feels like, and each one of those trim levels, as you're pointing out with the 4Runner, changes the direction of the target, off-road environment that is being like dealt with, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like it's too much.
And it's definitely too much.
There used to be a time when one off-road vehicle could do it all.
Why are we now? Old man Sami. There used to be a time.
I know, but A 4Runner used to be able to handle both the dunes and the rocks. Like, what happened?
Sit down over there on that stump, and I'm going to tell you about when you could go on the dunes and the rocks with the same vehicle.
I'm not totally off base here. Now, specializing it.
I do think the accent you were using was a little offensive, but
I agree to all of the old guy listeners.
All the old folks.
I really apologize. I'll work on it. Am I wrong? Come on.
You can still do that. You could take a TRD Pro wherever you want. You don't have to buy into the marketing that you need the Trailhunter, right?
That's
but I think
right.
it's probably more comfortable. I think
and
the
we could
Trailhunter,
probably go overlanding in any car.
You mean sleeping in your car? You mean the current economy making everyone into overlanders? I think that. But I think that the idea with the Trailhunter is it's more comfortable on the road and isn't going to be as jostly off-road as well because it doesn't have that the longer travel suspension in the Pro. Don't quote me on that though. But remember I said I was prepared to hate it. I really liked how it looked. And then I really liked how it drove. It was comfortable. Okay. It does feel like a well put together vehicle. The engine is the 2.4 liter turbo 4. It's hybridized. You can get the non-hybridized version in pretty much every model of the 4Runner except for the special ones. So Pro and Trailhunter come with the hybrid model. That means you get a single electric motor that gives you another 48 horsepower. There's a 0.9 kilowatt hour battery, which means you can't really drive around on electric power for very long. Although I was able to tow an empty trailer around my driveway under electric power, like just the battery. But once you're on the road, forget it. You're very much kicking in the gas engine. And in total, you get 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. This is important because the last engine in the 4Runner, last year's 4Runner, was garbage.
Is that the 4-liter 6-cylinder?
The 4-liter V6, 270 horsepower, 278 pound-feet of the noisiest, clatteriest torque you can possibly imagine, being shifted through a 5-speed automatic transmission, perhaps the last 5-speed auto on the entire market.
Did it have the 5-speed all the way till this new generation?
All the way to the end.
I knew it had a 5-speed for a long time. I didn't realize they didn't pull a Nissan and incorporate the new transmission.
Horrendously inefficient.
Yeah.
So you have tons more power with this engine. You have I can't remember how many speeds in the transmission. 8-speed.
Yeah. It's a good transmission.
For the most part, yes, I had some situations at lower throttle where it did not necessarily shift as clean or as smoothly as I expected. Now,
interesting.
This is an improvement. Last year, I don't know if people listening might remember, I drove the Tacoma and I towed with it. I towed with this vehicle as well. And I had a constant shake at low throttle from the same drivetrain in the Tacoma, where to the point where it was distracting and it was at all times. There was just something that was not right with the tune of that engine. So flash forward a year to now, almost exactly a year later, that issue is gone. So there was just the occasional roughness from the transmission while shifting, but the engine itself felt relatively smooth. And when I put the vehicle into tow haul mode, the transmission shifting issues disappeared. Okay. So I think it's just a programming thing. I'm sure they can dial it out. I don't know why it's there.
It's important to point out that there is a turbocharged 4-cylinder non-hybrid in the lineup. I
did point that out. Sorry. I did mention that it's available in every vehicle except the Trailhunter and the TRD Pro. The special models.
We mentioned the oops all hybrids. This is the one area where you can be like, oops, I got a gas-powered vehicle, I guess.
So why would you want to go with the gas-powered vehicle? There are two reasons. I mean, obviously you can't get the Trailhunter with that package, but the hybrid system in the Toyota, it has some issues. The first is fuel mileage is not super great. Do you want to guess what the combined mileage is for the Trailhunter?
Let's go with 28.
23.
Oh my goodness.
That is 4 miles per, that's 4 miles per gallon. That's 4 miles per gallon better than last year.
That's rough. Okay.
I could not beat 18 miles per gallon.
No way.
No, couldn't do it. The other thing,
despite the on paper improvement, it got the same mileage you got last year.
In the real world, I saw not so great mileage.
Wow.
But the other issues are the battery. So the hybrid system is heavy to the point where a Trailhunter has 300, or any actually hybrid version of the 4Runner has 350 pounds less cargo capacity than the non-turbo, than the non-hybrid.
300 pounds less?
350 pounds.
Towing capacity?
No, hauling capacity. Inside the vehicle.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, not useful.
The other issue is,
even though that you've got like this hilarious roof rack like rating for static loads and all that.
Yeah,
that's funny. Okay.
The other issue is the battery takes up a lot of space in the worst possible place. They put it under the cargo floor in the back, which means you have a 4-inch bump versus a non-turbo 4Runner. So you have 4 extra inches to lift over.
No way.
And the rear seats do not fold completely flat. So
how low do they go?
I can't remember.
Good enough?
I mean, good enough, I guess, but it's just that combination of factors that really kind of put the hybrid version at a disadvantage to other similarly sized SUVs. The thing that I don't understand is they knew this was going to be a hybrid right from the start. So why was this design flaw kept in the mix? Like, is it because they prioritized the Tacoma and the battery placement for the Tacoma, and they just didn't want, they know they're going to sell 2.5 times the Tacomas that they are 4Runners? It's an odd choice.
And do you mind if I ask, I'm sorry to sound ridiculous here, but when you say the battery, you don't mean the 12-volt battery. You mean the...
I mean the 0.9 kilowatt hour hybrid battery.
The hybrid battery.
Because both vehicles have a 12-volt battery.
Yeah.
So
I was just wondering if they relocated it, but that's nonsense.
No,
okay.
That is a strange question. I'm starting to get worried about you.
I haven't been thinking straight lately, and I'm glad that somebody's paid attention.
Well, I only pay attention for the hour or so that we record, and then I disconnect.
That is infuriating, because I think an SUV is also meant to be practical and have some utility. And when you're diminishing that utility for a supposed improvement in either fuel efficiency or performance, or just efficiency in general, all you're getting in this car is a more powerful vehicle, but it weighs over 6,000 pounds now.
No, I don't think it's that much. I think it's 5,500.
Oh yeah, 5,500. Sorry,
it can tow 6,000.
It can tow 6,500.
No,
sorry,
6,000.
It can tow. I'm looking at 6,000 only on the limited.
They can tow 6,000. Trust me.
Brilliant.
I towed with it. I towed my race car with it.
Okay.
I want to stress, I do like this vehicle. I think it's a really great effort from Toyota. I think it's cool. It looks cool. It drives nice. Even with the weird cargo thing at the back, it is useful. There are 2 things about it that drive me crazy that are not necessarily something that these might be deal breakers for some people. The first is this vehicle comes with a snorkel on the side of on the passenger side going up the A-pillar. It is not a waterproof snorkel. It is not for driving through water. All it does is grab non-dusty air, in theory, from up high, as opposed to like a more mid-mounted air intake for an SUV. The problem with it is the loudest thing you could possibly imagine, because the intake is directly beside the passenger window. So every time you hit the gas, it goes... It is very loud. You cannot have the window down while you're driving. Impossible.
Brutal. Okay.
It's like a blow-off valve inside the cabin.
Yeah.
And
some people might like that.
No one likes this. And also, it makes a ton of noise at highway speeds, even if you're not on the throttle, because it's a big bump on the side of the vehicle that disrupts airflow.
Does it get in the way of visibility as well over there?
No, you can't see it. All you can do is hear it. It's like a sonic boom. You don't see the missile that kills you.
Yeah.
Anyway. The other thing about I don't know why I went with missile there. The other thing that's weird about the Toyota is it has this pretty big infotainment screen in the middle of the dashboard. It works well. It's fine. It has almost no functionality. All it does is show you Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and like a few settings, mostly for the infotainment system. All the other vehicle settings, which means every single safety system, all the towing stuff, when you're setting up trailer profiles, et cetera, is stuffed into this tiny screen on the gauge cluster between the tach and the speedometer. And you can only access it using like the toggle button on the steering wheel. Now, this makes no sense whatsoever. I'm a professional automotive reviewer. I went into the safety systems to try and turn various things on and off because there were a few systems that were bothering me. They don't explain what the systems are. It's just acronyms: PKS, CKB, right. TTRS. And it's like, what is any of this? I can't I had to open the owner's manual and look all of it up. You know, all they had to do was put it on the gigantic infotainment screen like every other car company so that you can explain what each of these features are as you're turning them on and off. I don't know. Maybe that's a safety issue that they should have considered. Like, this is not a trivial thing here. I also I would say 95% of the trucks I tow with have the towing data and information on the center infotainment screen. Why does Toyota have a beautiful screen that they do not use?
Yeah.
It's baffling.
That they just don't have any like apps for information on.
They have nothing for it.
That's really strange.
Like, not even vehicle settings. Basics. The safety stuff is basic stuff.
That's hard to believe. I mean,
it is hard to believe.
I can't figure that out. I was looking at their feature list. There's all sorts of really strange gimmicks. Let me see if I can find some of them.
The worst one was they have like an active driving assist, which like automatically brakes when the vehicle in front of you brakes, and it tries to intervene in corners. It basically tries to drive for you without being an actual self-driving system.
Great.
And it was annoying. I had to turn it off. That's
so basically adaptive cruise control without adaptive cruise control.
That's on all the time.
That's so annoying.
Yeah. So I had to turn it off.
And it's just not subtle, right?
I couldn't figure out what it was called because it was just acronyms. I started turning off various things trying to get it to stop, but
and you're just slowly accelerating to cars in front of you to see if it'll turn off. And you're like, no.
I eventually just opened the manual.
Okay, so the one thing that 4Runners have had for a really long time is a rear window that goes up and down. This one still has it, right?
Yes.
Where's the button for this? Is it hidden? On the
dash. No, it's not hidden. No, it's not on the dash. Sorry, I believe it's on the overhead console.
Okay.
Like where if you had a sunroof, you would find the sunroof controls.
Okay. The other thing I was curious about is that there apparently is an onboard air compressor. Is that a trim level thing or a accessory thing?
I'm assuming it's part of the Trailhunter package. So you can air down at the wherever you're going off road.
How cool is that? Is that useful? I think that's kind of useful.
Sure,
it's different.
It's not that different. It's, I think it's cool. I think a lot of off-roaders already have one, so you can just leave yours at home, I guess.
And then the other thing is it has what they describe our pre-wired auxiliary switches.
Yeah.
The old one had this too, right?
Almost every off-road truck has this.
Yeah. And that's it for this is the cool things that a new 4Runner or Trailhunter has.
Well, it has also, it looks really aggressive. It has the bulging fenders and stuff that you don't find on the normal 4Runner. Like, it is a visually compelling package, I think.
Those bronze wheels are pretty sweet.
Yeah, they look really good.
And I guess, what they did to the roof rack in comparison to the TRD Pro is also a neat touch. The exterior, I think it looks pretty. It looks essentially like a Taco, I think. What do you mean? With a trunk, like it looks like the Tacoma. Sorry,
I don't know. I think it's pretty much differentiated from the Tacoma.
I don't know. And then I think the rear end looks very similar to the outgoing one as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Mentioned, we talked about this. We talked about this before the podcast. When you have that rear window that drops into the tailgate, you're limited as to how things can look.
I'm looking at all because
you have to accommodate that mechanism, and you have to make it so it's stable and not going to break and all that stuff.
There's like this neat slider on the website that lets you look at all of the side profiles of 4Runners from 1984 to the current one. It's pretty neat. Okay. Anything else?
Only podcasting was a visual medium.
Well, I would encourage people to go to the Toyota.com website. And,
wow, are you in the pockets of big Toyota?
Absolutely not, because I don't want this to be out there. Really, I want something that's less. I want something that's more fuel efficient. I want something that's more practical. I want something that is cheaper. That's what I'm looking for. And when Toyota starts offering those kinds of cars, then we can start talking. But
so you want like a Yaris Trailhunter?
Yeah, I want. In Europe, they have a Yaris Cross. What I need is like a 4Runner version.
Yaris Cross.
Yeah, what I need is a boxier version. Basically, take the body of the Bronco Sport, shrink it down by like 30%, and then you're done. That would be hilarious.
They'll be lining up for that.
We used to have those funny little. Yeah, I know. Here we go again. There used to be these really weird boxy off-road, like the Suzuki like Samurai or the Sidekick.
Yeah,
and the
all those
Geo Track.
Horrifically dangerous Utes.
Yeah, because they were made with like tinfoil rather than real.
Wheelbase, a wheelbase the length of a skateboard.
They were so good. Let's all get one. Anything else you want to tell me about your 4Runner experience?
No, that's it. I'm good. I'm done.
You sure?
I am sure.
All right. So in addition to your 4Runner, I have another car that we need to talk about this week, and that is the 2026 Audi Q3. Audi sent me all the way to Scotland to test drive this new subcompact crossover, although I think some people call it a compact. I don't know.
Sami, was it your first time in Scotland?
No, I've been to Edinburgh before. We were in Glasgow. It was an interesting event. They flew us over there. They put us on the wrong side of the road, but with continental European like vehicles, like German vehicles, I suppose. And that means that the steering wheel was on the wrong side for that side of the road. And it was a little disorienting. They also had a night drive program because the Q3 has some pretty cool headlights that Americans will not get, but Canadians will. So we got to experience that. And
quick question on the night drive. Were you actually smuggling stuff?
Yeah, no. I mean, I smuggled some stuff back, just a lot of chips and chocolate for my my Irish wife who misses the good stuff from back home. And yeah, we had a good time. It is interesting to talk about the Q3. I originally found the Q3, I think this is now its third or fourth generation. I think third, actually. And I've driven the first two generations, obviously, and found them to be really, really difficult cars to talk about. Things I don't love just recommending to people because I found them to be too small for practical usage, too expensive for even for the size profile, and then not luxurious enough to either justify the cost or the branding of the car.
Yeah, it really does seem like the Q3 has fallen through the cracks.
And
when you're talking about like a small premium vehicle.
And I was already, going into this program being like, here we go, another, attempt to justify what this product is. And I actually think that they pulled it off because, for starters, it looks much more refined and more like an SUV, I guess. In which the only way I could describe it is they've got more horizontal lines. It makes it look bigger, wider, even though it really isn't. So I think the exterior design redesign has really gone a long way in making the Audi feel a lot like significantly different, like in terms of product placement. And I guess if you discuss the other vehicles in its class, I think a Q3 would go up against something like maybe the Lexus NX or even the UX. It would sit somewhere between those two.
GLB from Mercedes?
GLB, which is a very, it can feel a lot like a family vehicle, mainly because it even offers a third row of seats in a small vehicle.
That's absolutely wild.
It is wild, absolutely. And then the other one is the BMW X1 and X2, which are okay vehicles, but sometimes their interior can feel a little empty. I think that's the best way to describe it.
I want to throw a wild card at you.
Hit me.
What about something like the Mini Countryman?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think the Countryman, I got to double check the pricing on it, but I do think the Countryman is cheaper.
It is cheaper. I think you're right.
But it's one of the few vehicles that offers a lot of personality in the subcompact, compact crossover segment. The premium one especially. So I think that's a wild card. I think we could talk about that later. But for now, let me just talk about this Q3. Exterior design, I think they've done a pretty good job. They've incorporated these OLED headlights and tail lights that blend into the bodywork when they're off and then kind of illuminate. So there's this just hidden, however you want to describe it, a hidden light bar that just illuminates whenever you hit the brakes. There's also an illuminated Audi emblem on the back, which I'm not sure I really love. It looks kind of cheap.
Also makes people think that maybe you're driving an EV, right? Because that's been the calling card for many of these electric vehicles.
Yeah, like a light bar.
Some type of illuminated logo, though.
Yeah.
Remember when the Lincoln Navigator had that gigantic illuminated logo? It was almost like a third headlight.
Yeah. It's insane to me the idea of illuminated emblems. I used to think that was really tacky, and then now like everyone has one of them. But at least on the Audis, as far as I can tell, it's only on the rear, so it's not too gaudy. What they've done instead is they've put the front emblem in the grille. They've like blacked it out, at least on the model that I drove, and then they put all these sensors for the safety features. They've kind of like embedded them around in and around that area. So
the front emblem is blacked out and invisible, and the rear emblem is illuminated.
Yeah.
Okay.
They probably had two different teams working on each end of the car.
This was the compromise.
Yes. Inside is probably my favorite element to talk about with the Q3. It actually feels like I used to think that the Q3 felt like an elevated Golf in terms of its interior design. Now I can truly say that it feels actually like a smaller Q5.
When you say elevated Golf, do you mean like riding on a higher suspension, or do you mean like trying to be luxurious?
Trying to be luxurious. And the Golf, I think, already tries really hard sometimes to justify being a little bit more premium than other compact cars with their interiors. But I just felt like the Q3 just couldn't pull it off, and it did feel like just a Volkswagen Auto Group product, just with more like stitching and leather. And now you've got something that feels a little bit nicer. They emphasize a lot of sustainable materials now in the premium class. This one is loaded with them. I don't know. Me and you had a discussion about fake plastics before the show started, and that fake plastics are they're just as bad as like real plastic sometimes.
For the most part, yeah.
And I don't know how biodegradable you really want your interior to be when you're spending like $45,000 on a car.
Well, you certainly don't want insects and squirrels eating your wiring harnesses. I think that's something we've established with these biodegradable products.
I mean, sometimes you don't even need biodegradable products to get the insects in there. I mean, do you remember these Mazdas with all the spider webs going on with them?
It's a beautiful home for a spider web in that gas tank exhaust valve.
But one of the things I do appreciate about the Q3 is that they've really tried to make it a flagship for technology. They've introduced the new generation infotainment system on it. It's an Android Automotive OS based infotainment system. It does not feel as janky as the Volvo ones that we've been talking about lately. I really like the responsiveness of it. It had all of the same features that you expect in an Audi product, including a Google Maps like satellite view, and really responsive. And it also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, all that jazz. There's also, of course, the virtual cockpit, which is a digital dash. It worked really well. I really liked all of this.
Do you think that like, so when I drove the SQ6 last week that we talked about, I found that the Audi infotainment and virtual cockpit and all that was perfectly fine, but it didn't strike me as breaking any new ground versus what other car companies are trying to do. Again, not a problem for me, but did you have that same kind of feeling in the Q3?
No, they really emphasized it in their presentation and their presentation that this Android Automotive OS one, they've really like changed the interface. They've like changed the way that icons are presented or app shortcuts are presented. So they're trying to make it more stylish, I think. I truly believe that they think that the consumer for this is sort of like a young adult who's into like the technology and connected, maybe social media and stuff like that. They even offer like YouTube on an Audi application store. I don't know why you'd really want YouTube on a non like electric vehicle, because that just seems like a distraction. But then again, actually, the more I think about it, they got rid of Google Podcasts for YouTube Music, which is confusing, but that's how people can listen to podcasts on the Google platform now.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, I think.
So I guess maybe that's what they're talking about. There's also one of these like voice assistants that chimes in every time you say something like, "Hey, Audi," or whatever. I don't care about any of that. What a lot of people were curious about is that Audi is incorporating a new control scheme for their gear selection. It's like this static column that does not move, with a little switch at the end of them where you would be.
Wait, where is this column?
It's on the steering wheel, or on the steering wheel column. Sorry.
So it's a I'm confused.
It's like a column-mounted shifter that doesn't move.
Is it a stalk that comes off of the steering
Yeah,
column?
a stalk. Sorry. A stalk.
So
Yeah, my mistake.
It has a stalk with a dial, kind of like what you would use for, I guess, windshield wipers.
Kind of, yes. It's not quite like the big chunky one you used to remember on a truck, or the big.
Well, those don't turn.
Yeah, or the one that you would see on modern Hyundais,
or the tiny Mercedes one.
Yeah, it's closer to the tiny Mercedes one, but it just doesn't move. And at the end is a little like square that toggles up and down, and you push it in for park.
You know, Sammy,
and a lot of people have been making a lot of noise about this, but I don't think it makes that big of a difference. Like every automaker now is introducing its own way to change gears.
The one thing I think about when I sit in a car these days is I really wish there would be a different way to choose drive, park, and reverse. I'm so tired of a simple basic system that has worked well for 70 to 80 years.
Yeah, I know.
I want something that's confusing that I have to relearn, that means I can't loan my car to my elderly relatives. You know, it's really an answer to a question that had been answered decades ago.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the moment you get into this car, you'll get yourself used to it pretty quickly.
You're not saying I'm going to put it in park while I'm trying to turn the wipers on.
No, the wipers are just on the other side.
Oh, that's an easy thing. That's an easy thing to do. Just have two identical controls on different sides of the steering column.
Do we not currently have that with window wipers and turn signals?
Yeah, but a little less mission critical.
Yeah, that's fair. The other thing to talk about here is its powertrain. There's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It always feels like every single Audi ever made has this EA 888 engine. In this application, it makes closer to 260 horsepower, which is pretty good because the outgoing one only made 220, which is kind of the industry standard for this.
But segment. You have to use super gas, right? Like ultra super maximum gas.
Right. And I noticed that the car really did not feel underpowered in any way. It was fine. One of the strangest things, though, is that in Europe, they sell this car as a plug-in hybrid. And that seems like a pretty cool, just like a determining factor that would make this car feel more interesting compared to the rest of its class. I don't think there's a plug-in hybrid.
Maybe it's a cost thing. Like maybe it would push it too far out of subcompact. Like I think in Europe, there's probably more of a tolerance for expensive small cars.
Mm-hmm.
In North America, I don't know. People see a high price tag on a small car and they start looking at a larger car for the same money.
I don't know, man. It seems like car pricing in general here has gotten out of control, and I think they can sell anything for any price that they want to.
$87,000 Toyota Trailhunter.
Yeah,
we were just talking about.
I mean, that used to be range topping LX like pricing.
Sammy, but I remember you sat me down on the stump and you told me about back in the day.
Yeah,
$87,000 would buy you a Ferrari. Was it a Testarossa?
I think so, probably.
Yeah.
So I think, they can probably pull that off. There's a 420 watt sound system. I believe it's a 12 speaker sound system.
Oh my goodness.
Can I tell you, we get in and out of these press vehicles all the time. And I find myself having to adjust my sound systems or the sound settings so often now, because it depends on what I'm trying to listen to. If I'm listening to a podcast or if I'm listening to music, there's very different, like some of these sound systems are so either rudimentary or so powerful that like a regular sound profile just doesn't seem to work in.
Here's what I do whenever I get into a press vehicle.
Yeah, you turn the bass from max to something more reasonable.
What I do is I get out my little app that tracks fuel mileage.
Yes.
I write down the mileage that I'm starting at. Then I connect my phone to the infotainment system. And then step 3, I go into the sound system. I flatten the EQ. Yeah. I turn off all the 3D garbage stuff that's not real. Yeah. All the processing. And then I'm happy. That's what I do. I don't buy into these random weird gimmicks that they're programming into audio. And
I like this approach because yes, the flattest one is probably the one that works for the most amount of content in terms of music or podcasts. But sometimes I find myself when I'm on the road, I can't quite hear what I'm listening to, and I have to do something with the speaker setup.
I'm going deaf, so like it's hard for me to hear stuff. Period.
This Audi comes with like profiles that you can just switch to. I'm listening to a podcast now. Press this button.
Blast past Ben revealing that he's going deaf and talking about podcasts.
Oh, I've known this guy. I've known this for a while. Do you want to unleash this on the podcast on the listeners?
Moment has passed.
I also wanted to make it feel like I'm also going deaf and just ignoring you.
I hope you're not.
I'm not yet, probably.
Wouldn't wish it on anyone.
The car also comes with all-wheel drive, the standard stuff, nothing too worthwhile to talk about. My experience with it was pretty good. I really did not feel like it was a cheap car trying to be expensive, but more of like a premium car, just at a smaller size and price point. That might be because we were driving European spec vehicles, which is what you said earlier. They have a higher tolerance for these kinds of like elevated prices, and they have more features on them.
You're also driving on tiny European roads, right? Like, they're getting you into the mentality of like, oh, this vehicle fits my lifestyle very well.
I agree with you on that. I actually really love the size of these cars on those roads. They feel right, and I live in a like the city that I live in can feel kind of tight. There's a lot of small roads. It's an older,
super advanced city of Hamilton.
No, yeah, right.
Come on.
And I also feel like, a small car really works in some of these denser city streets. So I was happy with that. The major thing that I think Audi wanted to showcase is something that might not apply to some of our listeners because it's not going to be offered to US buyers, is the digital matrix LED headlights, which is a headlight system that's made up of over 25,000 LEDs. Which sounds expensive. That's
too many LEDs.
It also sounds expensive if something happens.
I'm willing to buy 12,000 LEDs. That's my upper limit.
These LEDs are really they are by the. You're laughing too much.
I'm laughing because I remember when like 1 or 2 LEDs was like a really big deal, and now they're like, well, there's 25,000 LEDs on this bottle cap, and you're like, what?
Well, I actually think that's funny because Audi must have been one of the first automakers to have LED daytime running lights, and they used to be little dots, right? Like,
yeah, that was one LED. It was like the size of your fist.
Singular little dots that they used to put around. I think it must have been the R8 had them. But now they've got 25,000.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like LED DRLs are 20 years from now, are going to be the feature that dates designs the most.
That'll be so interesting.
You'll be like, I know exactly when this car came out because of the shape of the LEDs on its front end.
But these LEDs are informed by the safety systems found on the vehicle. So basically, they can react to what the camera and adaptive cruise control sensors are seeing, and can change the direction of the beam and illuminate only the road in front of you, so you don't, in terms of like low beam headlights, mainly so you're not blinding anybody. And then in addition to that, they can project they can enable and disable these LEDs as needed and project information onto the light beam, which is both the most gimmicky and most interesting thing I've ever seen.
So it's like a head-up display that's going past the windshield.
Yes, it's like a head-up display on the road. And I know that sounds stupid, but here's what they did. They made us drive these cars out in the road. They made us turn on adaptive cruise control and lane keeping. And the car, so basically we could see the road in front of us, between us and the car ahead, perfectly illuminated. And then the system would put these 2 lines, they would basically blank out a couple of LEDs and put these 2 black lines in that light beam to visualize where you are on in the lane. And it's also worth pointing out, this is not illuminating the lane next to you until you turn on the signal, which then it illuminates it on a rhythmic, like TikTok, like your signal.
So I'm still a little bit, we've talked about this before off mic. I'm still a little bit confused by this because I need those lights to illuminate the lane beside me because that's where the deer are.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like pattern, like scattered pattern to it. I think a much more controlled way than the randomness of other like high beams sometimes. And if you ever look at like IIHS reports, they can really peg a automaker's headlights down just based on their glare pattern. And I think basically what Audi is doing is they're focusing their glare pattern to what is essential and can control it to such a extent that it will not interfere with oncoming motorists or
so I understand that for a high beam, but for a low beam, you're not going to be interfering with oncoming motorists.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't completely like leave the other lane in shadows
because you need full frontal illumination once you're outside of a city, or your headlights are useless, right?
Yeah,
and I've driven some of the cool Matrix designs, like from Mercedes-Benz, where they leave the brights on all the time, and then they carve out the space for the vehicle that's coming towards you, and you can actually see that dark zone move with the vehicle that's in the oncoming lane, and that's available in Canada. For a few years now.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool technology.
This is doing something kind of like that. It's not, like I said, it's not totally leaving an entire thing in darkness. I'm going to, the other thing that it'll do will project a snowflake on the road when it's icy out there. I think that's really funny.
Oh my goodness.
I
it's
know
really,
when
yeah, exactly. It's going to be even funnier when it's projected over actual ice.
Or snow, yeah.
So I want to ask you, how do you feel about augmented reality in a car? Because that's basically what this is.
Yes, I really like it. I think it's really cool. I think it is... look, all those features are already in the car, like the adaptive cruise control, the makes use of these cameras that can sense so much of the world around it. And augmented reality, I think, typically uses mapping data or vehicle to X data. And this didn't quite have that. I'm sure it eventually will. It could put speed limits on that projection or something like that. I think that's super cool. I really do love that. I would love to see more of it.
One follow-up. Sorry, go on.
The only issue is it seems to add a lot of complexity and data to the overall vehicle. And right now it seems like we've gotten a lot of cars that have been released lately with unreliable infotainment systems. And I'm worried that adding too many gimmicks will take away from the basic functionality that we expect from infotainment systems. Also,
maybe basic functionality of headlights, which are key. I mean, if your headlights aren't working because the software won't boot.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Like, what happens? And I mean, sensors can be blocked. They can be damaged. Something can happen. What will happen to the headlights when that happens? Will they just revert to a normal phase, hopefully?
Following on with
you never know.
The additional cost of this type of headlight means in an accident,
the
repair costs are going to be astronomical.
Absolutely huge.
It could be contributing to increased insurance costs for motorists. Absolutely.
100% it does. But it's worth pointing out, I'm curious as to what gets damaged more frequently. A windshield, which needs to have a special coating in order for head-up displays to work, or the headlights.
Yeah, but this vehicle has both.
Yeah. Well, it did not have a head-up display.
Okay, so I would say headlights are at the front of the car.
Yeah,
they're going to be taking more. If you're in a parking lot and someone backs into you, your windshield is fine. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a great point. I've damaged more windshields than I have headlights. That's
because you're wild. You're just out there with no rules.
That's
driving through apple orchards, all sorts of crazy windshield risking activities.
Partially true. We have these. It's like season now for these. I think they're called. My wife calls them conkers. Have you ever heard of these?
You're gonna have to give me more than that.
It's a tree. It's called a European horse chestnut, and they make these massive chestnut, like seeds.
We have butternuts in Canada,
and they fall. And we have a couple of roots that I take that are covered by these things. And the other day, one of these trees dropped right on my windshield and scared the daylights out of me. I was like, "What was that?" And I just saw it stuck in my windshield wiper, and I was like, "Oh man, one of these things."
Wow.
Anyways, the starting price for the Q3 has not been announced. I would imagine it costs around $40,000 to $45,000, which is an average price of a compact car in the segment. I would say that similarly, the pricing in Canada is not going to be going up any further. Let me double check what I estimate.
Love these typing sounds.
Yeah, you should. Why not?
No comment.
Let me get this in. My expectation for the pricing in Canada is that'll be about 45 to 55,000.
So would you recommend this vehicle?
Yeah, right now I would, assuming that is what the pricing will be. I was very happy with the performance of it. I'm happy with the design of it. I'm happy with the technology that's offered in it. And especially for Canadians who I think that lighting technology is really cool. It's one of those few features that makes me say, oh, that's why you bought a luxury car. That's why you bought the top, like a recognized, like a fancy nameplate. And I think that there's so many vehicles that don't offer a killer app or a killer feature or something to point at and be like, that's why I sprung for the Audi, for example.
Okay.
And I'm into that. I really dig that. I love it when an automaker tries to make their vehicle stand out and pulls it off. It might be a gimmick, but at least this one's kind of functional.
So last week at the end of the show, I mentioned that I had bought another car.
Yeah, you left us with such a teaser.
And I'm sorry to the people who reached out online to
get hints.
Well, the people were like, no, they have to wait a whole week to find out what I bought. So I hope you're not disappointed by what the answer ends up being. But I want to just kind of walk through the process that I've been going through over the last 3 months or so, because it has not been fun. And normally for me, shopping for cars is fun because I have a disease and I'm almost always looking at online ads for enthusiast type cars, or at least vehicles that I find interesting, like the manual transmission Pathfinder I bought back in June, which is still serving me well. But my wife has a commute that's about 260 kilometers round trip that she does once or twice a week, depending on weather and things like that, and whether she's actually needed in the office. And it involves city driving and mostly highway. But once you get to the city, things are pretty gnarly. And it's a lot of bumper to bumper traffic. So 260 kilometers, I guess, is like 160 miles, something like that.
Okay.
It's not insubstantial, but it means that the vehicle that she wants, she needs a vehicle that's comfortable, needs a vehicle that's safe, and needs a vehicle that is relatively reasonable on fuel mileage. And for parking, it can't be gigantic. And fuel mileage and parking are kind of linked. Like, you can't have a gigantic vehicle that gets good gas. It just doesn't really happen. So the last 2 years, she's been driving a 2024 Crosstrek, which we leased for 2 years because when we moved to the country, we didn't have a lot of time to find a new vehicle. It was 2023. And the prices for used cars were horrible. Like, they were through the roof. We were just looking at garbage stuff that was the same price as this particular lease, like $500 a month, $12,000 all in. So our lease is up in November. And the last 3 months have been me trying to figure out what we were going to replace it with. And at first I wanted to go electric, and I was very convinced this is what we were going to do. I was also convinced that EV prices in Canada were going to start to come down because there were fewer incentives available. From the federal government got rid of its incentives for electric vehicles. The province of Quebec still has one that's a little bit lower, but it was still available. And I was like, okay, they're going to drop pricing to reflect this because most of these companies were relying on these incentives to get people in the showroom. That didn't happen. It's happened in the States recently because the $7,500 tax incentive is no longer available. Yeah. And as of yesterday, I believe that Hyundai dropped the price of the Ioniq 5 between $7,000 and $9,000, depending on the trim level, which is pretty dramatic. It didn't happen in Canada.
That's it. That's not. I don't think that price drop is coming to Canada either.
No, that's what I just said.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
Not happening.
I thought you were just talking about that. Yes, go ahead.
So I was waiting for something that wasn't going to happen. I was really had my heart set on an Ioniq 6, but I started looking around and I was like, oh, maybe I can get a Kona EV, because on the used market, the first generation Kona EV, well, the first generation facelifted one, if you get one that there's two versions. There's the one where the battery warranty is gone, and you can get those for like 15 or 16 grand, which is a pretty decent deal for 400 kilometers of driving on a charge, which again is a factor on this round trip. In the winter, my wife's going to lose like 40% of that capability. So I wanted to keep her in the range of being able to do it without having to stop on her way home to plug in. And then we would just charge at home. And if you want one that has the warranty, you're looking at around 25,000 with tax in. And that didn't seem too crazy. And then I started looking at lease deals for the Ioniq, and I looked at the Mach-E as well. Ford was offering like $17,000 in rebates off of the Mach-E. Ioniq was offering an all-in tax included lease rate for 4 years that was the same as what we were paying for the Outback, $500 a month. And it kind of seemed like that's where I was going to go. I was like, all right, it's the same price we're paying now. We're treating transportation as another bill that we pay every month.
Yeah.
And that seems to a brand new car. So theoretically less problems. And let's just do that. And then I kind of realized that this is a vehicle that 5 days out of the week sits in the driveway. When we drive together, we're almost always driving one of my vehicles or a press car because I have to drive the press cars and I usually have to drive them long distances. So we're just going to take that if we're going on any kind of trip.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was like, why am I going to pay $500 a month for a car that we're not using? If it was a car that we were either both going to be using every day or she was going to be using every day, then yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I essentially talked myself out of leasing. And I was really surprised by that. Then I started to think about, well, what's the upper dollar limit that I want to spend on a car that's going to sit 5 days a week? And I was thinking, do I really want to spend 25 grand on a Kona? Mm-hmm. I like the fact that we wouldn't be paying for gas, but there's a few issues with the Kona out there on the used market. They have, there's some infotainment problems. There's some cooling problems. It's not big deals, but they are things that, sorry, when I say cooling problems, I mean inside the cabin, like the air conditioning system. It's problematic. I was like, do we want to pay a lot for a car where we're not really necessarily going to get the savings because it's not going to be driven all that often? So the fuel mileage savings are minimal, maybe $150 a month we would save. And that would easily be eaten up by the purchase price of the vehicle. So I started looking around at, what's the $15,000 mark? That seemed to be like, we're just going to buy it in cash, get something decent around that price and be happy with it. And this is where the market got weird for me. Like there's a lot of cars at that price point. Yeah. Early contenders was the Subaru Outback with the 3.6 liter flat six engine and the 5-speed automatic, which was made until 2014. And I was really set on finding one of these because it's the most reliable Subaru that's out there. Otherwise, I would have bought a used Crosstrek. But the thing is, the Crosstreks of old all come with CVTs if you want an automatic, and it's not a good transmission. It's not reliable. I can't ask my wife to drive a 5-speed manual in traffic every day. It's or not every day, but every time she uses it. It's just not fair to do. Okay. So I wanted this 5-speed automatic because of the reliability. I quickly discovered there are no clean examples of this vehicle to be had in Quebec. Everything I looked at was either rusty or had hidden problems. I had a couple of vehicles inspected by a garage that I trusted, and none of them passed. Then I moved on to the Golf Sport Wagon, which a friend of mine found a one-owner, senior-owned, 130,000 kilometer example, 2017, and it was affordably priced. It was like 13 grand. It did not have adaptive cruise, which was kind of disappointing for my wife, but it did have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Okay. Which is a bonus. Yeah. I was set to buy this car. I was ready to go make a deposit. And then a weekend visit from a friend of mine who was a Volkswagen service manager for like 5 years during the period that they sold this car talked me out of it. He said that they used to keep 5 turbos on hand at any given point so they could get through Friday without having customer cars in the shop over the weekend. He also said
unbelievable.
Yeah. He also said that I would be dealing with constant little problems that would drive me crazy. I did some research and I discovered that unfortunately this sport wagon was outfitted with the panoramic sunroof, which has a class action lawsuit that Volkswagen had to settle for how much it leaks. Volkswagen bought the sunroof from a third party and installed it, and there are nonstop problems with it. Okay. And it's problems in the sense that like the actual assembly that holds the glass can be cracked and let water in. And once water comes in, it destroys the headliner and all associated electronics. Okay. And then even if you have...
Wow. We'll talk about like a cascade of events that makes a car that just destroys a car. Okay.
And even if it doesn't leak, the track for the cover... My friend was like, look, he's like, either you leave it open all the time or you leave it closed all the time, but eventually that track's going to come off and you're going to have to replace the whole headliner because it will get snagged and tear and all this stuff. So I walked away from that car. I then started looking at the Chevrolet Cruze, the second generation, a car I've always liked and which I discovered is pretty reliable. The 1.4 liter turbo engine. They made a hatchback version starting in 2017, I think 2016.
You went on such a journey here. I love this.
I know. I'm just
taking us for a spin with it.
I'm just monologuing here. I'm sorry about that. But okay. I started looking for a cruise because I like I said, I always liked how it drove. I discovered they're very reliable. I ended up finding one about an hour from my house. It was one owner, low kilometers, well, reasonable kilometers. And the owner appeared to have taken care of it. When I showed up, it had a check engine light, which he had not told me about. I did not bring my code scanner with me because he did not say that I needed to. So I was like, look, I'm interested in the car. It drives okay. It had a little bit of a hesitation around 3,000 RPM that eventually smoothed out. And he had a stack of receipts for maintenance going back over his whole ownership. It was mostly just oil changes. And he's like, well, my garage told me that the check engine light was just because I didn't drive it enough at high speeds. So there was moisture building up in the exhaust system. And I'm like, I guess that's kind of plausible if this is a CEL for like an oxygen sensor or something.
Yeah.
I sent it to a garage for inspection. They pulled the code and they found a couple of things. There was like some oil leaking from the engine head. There was a torn CV boot and some leaking. Those weren't big deals, but the check engine light was for an underboost condition on the turbo.
Oh God, here we go. Okay.
At that point, it could have been many, many things. Sometimes for the cruise, it's just either a cracked hose somewhere or a bad PCV valve. Oftentimes you don't have to replace the turbo, but you might have to replace the turbo. And the fact that this guy had driven the car like that for a year really made me wonder, like, how careful he really was about maintaining it and how he didn't notice that there wasn't good power from the car. So I walked away from that. And at this point, I'm so frustrated. Like, I've been driving cars. They haven't been working out. The following weekend, I go to a Subaru dealer that has a 2017 Outback with the 3.6 because I'm so frustrated that by this point, I'm willing to consider CVT equipped Outbacks because the CVT for the 3.6 liter 6 is a different part number than the 4-cylinder, which is more problematic. It's got stronger internals. I drive this car that had been traded in at a Kia dealership. It was neglected. They didn't have any information about it. And I could tell I drove it for a while. And when I brought it back, they wanted to make a deal. I probably could have got it for like 3,000 or 4,000 less than they were asking, but there was all these issues that they had documented and other people had driven the car and it had it inspected and walked away. And I decided to do that. I was like, it's just too rusty underneath and I don't trust it. So I'm at my wit's end. I see this pair of ads that show up on Marketplace. Someone is selling two Outbacks, a 2015 and a 2017, both with the 3.6 engine. One has 200,000 kilometers. The other has 120. The 200,000 kilometer vehicle is for 10,500. The other one with much less kilometers is like twice the price. And the other car also has eyesight, which was not available in 2015 with the flat six.
Right.
So I contact them. I'm like, hey, I saw you have these vehicles for sale. And they're like, yeah, we're a psychotherapy company. We own 4 Outbacks with the 3.6, and they're for our employees. They drive up north into native communities and they do therapy, and then they come back. And so we like these vehicles because they're reliable, they're safe, and we over maintain them. If there's a problem, we just get it fixed because we can't afford to have our employees not be safe. And I'm liking all that I'm hearing here. Mm-hmm. So I go and I drive. I don't even look at the 2017 for twice the price because it's not worth paying that much more for adaptive cruise. Mm-hmm. I drive the 2015 model. It drives fine. They've kept it very clean. There's no obvious problems with the vehicle. And then they're like, you can go to the garage. Here's the address where we maintain it. And you can ask to see the service records. And I did. And I looked at 2 years of service records. And every time there was any kind of problem, they took care of it. They were up to date on fluid changes. It was into shop every 4 months for preventative maintenance. I felt good about the vehicle and I ended up buying it. So We've had it for a week now.
Okay.
Immediately after buying it, I discovered there was paintwork on one of the fenders. Literally the same day. I did not see it when I first drove it because you can only see it on an overcast situation. In bright light, you don't see it. It's like a sparkly paint. When there's cloud cover, it looks like someone sprayed a bit to cover a scratch, but there's no rust there. And I talked with the seller after that. They're like, no, we have a clean Carfax for the car. We didn't do that work, so we don't know the details of what that is. But that has been the only surprise. I have a little bit of a clattering sound over some bumps, and I've discovered that these vehicles have a spring in the electric power steering system that very often clatters to the point where there's a TSB from Subaru and a replacement part kit that has a longer spring with a slightly longer screw that I bought and I'm going to put in this weekend, and that will thankfully get rid of the rattle. But we haven't had any other problems. It drives pretty well. It's comfortable. My wife's getting used to it. It's a lot bigger than the Crosstrek. It uses a little bit more gas, but not a lot. But it's just a more comfortable, quieter car for her on the highway. And now I haven't owned an Outback in 25 years, I think, or maybe 20 years since the last time I had one. And that was a 90s one, and I had it for a very brief period of time. It was a car that belonged to my grandfather. It had not been well maintained, and I did not keep it very long. But all this to say, I do not enjoy shopping for a quote unquote normal commuter car. Like, the process is difficult. You're dealing with dealerships that are often, if you're looking at a used car of a certain age, they're indifferent. Like, they don't really care. They don't know anything about the vehicles that come in. You have to really take on the burden of inspecting and validating the car is in good shape for yourself. And it's stressful. It's really stressful, especially since we had a ticking clock on this lease being done.
Yeah.
But we're selling the Crosstrek to the same dealer that was selling that Volkswagen, as a friend of a friend. They wanted to buy our Crosstrek from us before the lease was up because it has so few kilometers and it's super clean. We put like 30,000 on it in 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's all working well. We're getting a check instead of just sending the car back to Subaru.
Love that.
And we have a car that hopefully will last the next 4 or 5 years without any issues, given the small amount of mileage that's going to be put on it. And I'm happy to be back in Outback Nation, and I'm already looking at weird mods that I'm never going to do because it's just a commuter car. It has LED headlights that were installed because of going up north with the car. It's often dark. There's not a lot of it's seasonally darker than it is here. It gets darker earlier. So they wanted their employees to be safe. So it's got brighter LED headlights. So that's nice for us out here in the country. And I'm considering ways to add Android Auto so that my wife can have easier navigation than just having her phone on the windshield. But so far, happy with it. It's 3.6 I haven't driven one in so long. Like, I might not have driven one since this generation was released. And now, Sammy, I have an Outback just like you, and maybe you'll respect me a little bit more because of that.
Yeah, or maybe I've always felt like you don't respect me a lot because I have the turbo CVT equipped Outback, but you have the now automatic. Or is your CVT? No, yours is.
Yeah, it's a CVT.
It's a CVT, yeah. But at least your naturally aspirated 6. Now, I'm going to tell you, my turbo model, the fuel economy is so bad unless I really, really try, and it's just a different way of driving it. And I'm curious to see how it's just such a bland, boring way of driving it. You have to be so self-conscious of what your speeds are, how you're applying throttle or braking or coasting. And as soon as you get in the city, just the fuel economy just tanks. So I'm curious to see what your lifetime fuel economy will be like.
Well, so far she's seeing just under 10 liters per 100 kilometers, so about 24 miles per gallon.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
I'm not getting that.
The Crosstrek was between 7 and 8.
Yeah, that's much better, of course.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is my issue with all of these Subarus I've owned is that the paint is like non-existent. So they like scratch at the slightest sign of like dust.
Really?
That's been my experience.
Wow.
I don't know what type of paint they use, but it's super flimsy. I'm curious what other people have said about their Subaru experiences. I feel like this like era of Subaru, this like past maybe 10 years, they've really focused on making like really solid, mechanically solid vehicles that are more reliable and safer. And I think you found the main reasons as to why you would get one, right? Like those were the main reasons that you would get one.
I'm still very nervous about the CVT. For the 4-cylinder vehicles, there's like a 100,000 mile warranty extension going up to 2019 or 2020, I think, because of how many problems they had with it. So with the 6, it's a different transmission, but I'm still wary. We're going to try and stay ahead of things with fluid changes every 30,000 kilometers or so.
Yeah.
Which is not a cheap thing to do. Maybe it'll end up being every 2 years, but it does seem to help keep these transmissions on the road.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I think that was a really long journey to another Subaru.
Yeah.
What is it about this brand?
I like wagons.
Yeah.
I also briefly considered a Hyundai Genesis, like the first generation, because with the 3.3 liter V6, I think they're apparently quite reliable, except for carbon buildup because of the direct injection. But finding examples is tough. There was nothing close. There was stuff that was maybe an hour and a half away that I could go look at. And it just doesn't have the functionality of a wagon. I really like wagons. The Outback is probably the most affordable way to get a wagon that is not going to give you too much trouble from a maintenance perspective, because otherwise you're going to be looking at European wagons up here. We didn't get the Buick version of the Regal wagon from the last few years. We didn't get the Jaguar XF Sport Brake. We're pretty limited when it comes to wagons.
And all those carry a price, just a premium, because they're premium badges. I mean, even think about the Volvos, right?
Yeah, the Volvos are just too complicated to own, because if you start looking at the price point that we would want to spend, looking around 15,000, you're looking at the turbo and supercharged 4-cylinder engine. Do I really want to get involved with that? And then I think about how bad Sensus is as an infotainment system. And it's like, the car is not compelling enough. Like, it doesn't do anything better than the Outback to make me want to roll the dice.
Yeah, exactly. That's fair.
Like, the Outback feels like a known quantity. The other thing I like about it is there's a huge community. So if I have a problem, I just search online, and like this whole rattle thing, I was like, oh, I'm getting a rattle from the left front of the car. It seems like suspension, but there was no suspension problems reported by the previous owner. And when I move the suspension, I'm not hearing it. It's only when I'm driving. And then it turns out it's like, oh, sit in your driveway and move the steering wheel back and forth. Do you hear it? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, it's definitely this screw in this spring. And it cost me like $40 at the Subaru parts counter. And now I have to buy a TS40 torque head, because I don't have the hollow heads for the safety screws. And then it's literally 10 minutes under the car while it's on ramps. So
that's not bad. Yeah.
And all of that from just looking it up online. I can guarantee you the Volvo community is not as big for DIY.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
But it's definitely not.
We'll see.
We'll see. No,
we'll see. All the Volvo owners who listen, or Volvo listeners, are going to message us.
There's just far fewer Volvos than there are Subarus.
Yeah, but they're a passionate bunch, perhaps.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm eager to see how many Subaru owners are going to message us compared to Volvo owners, and this is a shout out to our listeners. Head on over to our website, unnamedautomotivepodcast.com. Go to the contact form and let us know if you've got a Volvo or Subaru. Or
maybe don't. Don't play into Sammy's hands here. You don't have to play his game.
I want to hear. Or just give us whatever's going on. Tell us what's going on. How are you? What's been your year like? And we love hearing from you guys. If you guys want us to talk about whatever's going on in the industry, or something that caught your eyes, let us know. We love doing it. So head on over to our website, or you can email us. It's benjamin@benjaminhunting.com, or you can find us on social media. I think the easiest way to find Ben or myself is to go to Instagram. I'm at Sammy_ha, like you're laughing. You can find Ben. He's at Hunting Benjamin.
Sammy, what are you going to be driving next week?
I'm actually going on a little trip to Europe. I'm trying to get my hands on a Jeep over there that we do not get in North America at all. It's called the Jeep Avenger. So I'm trying to get my hands on that, and hopefully I do, and I can come back and report on that. Otherwise, I'll just get some rental, and we'll talk about that as well.
So while Sammy is gone, we're going to have friend of the show, Chad Kirshner, come on and guest host for us. So we'll still be having episodes out, even though Sammy is once again abandoning us for Europe. I will be talking next week. It's a tough call. I think I'm going to be talking about the Nissan Versa that I drove, which...
Oh, man, I would love to talk to you about that Versa. I can't wait to hear this.
It's the most affordable car in America, brand new car, by a large margin, and it is done by the end of this year. So that will be interesting to talk about.
Very cool. I look forward to hearing it. And
so check out my Kickstarter, modeluncomic.com. This Tuesday, it goes live. Would love to have you get on board for my story of aliens, high school kids in the 90s, and the fate of the Earth hanging in the balance.
I love it. Modeluncomic.com. Go for it. Bye, everyone.